there are good teams and there are bad teams,
Yeah.
right? There are teams that perform and there are teams that don't perform. Any great thing in the world has been built by solid teams. People is essential to every business success.
Every team, company, anything that has to do with people need a driving force that people need to believe in.
Does that mean we should hire people who are like us?
That's why it's value-based rather than personality-based.
How should we be thinking about hiring team members?
At the foundation of every team, trust has to be established. If there's no trust, then nothing else can be established on that team.
Thank you very much. I mean, this is the first episode I'm having you on this podcast.
Yes, glad to be here. Glad to be here.
I think, like I mentioned in the other episode, that the purpose of this podcast basically is just to see how we can synergize conversations around our experiences building a business. Solomon has been here. You know, in case anyone is watching and you're wondering, we're actually 3 partners that started our team, and this is one of the partners that you are yet to meet.
Hi.
When Solomon came, I did a grand interview, but unfortunately, I don't know. This time around, the cameras are everywhere, so I don't know how to hide you. Solomon was a secret, but well, it's still a secret. They will get to see it when it comes out. So today, I have the privilege of having Mr. Makua Afiomah, great guy, great friend. We've been together for, right now, almost clocking 2 decades.
2 decades. Wow.
Almost 2 decades.
Wow.
Almost 2 decades together.
That's 20 years for those that don't know.
Yeah, 20 years. So, it's really phenomenal. And today we are discussing something that, in TM, we have a structure, right? And one of the topic we are discussing today, there was no way I would have discussed it without bringing him on, because today we are talking about building high-performance teams, not just teams, right? I like the quotes I saw somewhere. They said that you either win as a team or you lose by default. I think I would like to begin this episode with that quote. You either win as a team or you lose by default, because any great thing in the world has been built by solid teams.
Yeah.
I believe that God has created the world for us to be interdependent by design.
Yeah.
And for any great idea to really find full expression on the earth, there has to be a team of people with a shared vision, shared understanding, shared belief that that's possible, and shared desire to see that come to pass. That will pursue that till the very end. It reminds me, I'm a church boy, so I always give Bible examples, right? It reminds me of the story we have in the Bible of the Tower of Babel. Right? Some group of people came together, and the Bible says that because they were of one language, they were able to build that tower that will hit heaven. God, because that was not God's plan. God said, if these people, what they've said to do, they will achieve it.
Yeah.
Because he knew the power of a team. As a matter of fact, even when he created man, he said, it's not good that man should be alone, right? He had to give him a woman, a helpmeet, because I believe strongly that even the way God has put the unit of world in the family, shows us that teams are required.
I mean, the Bible even says that one shall chase 1,000.
Yeah, one shall chase 1,000, 2 shall put 10,000 to flight. So, I mean, that's the Bible, right? But then again, before I get preachy here, the fact of the matter is that there are good teams and there are bad teams, right? There are teams that perform and there are teams that don't perform, So I wanted to just use that to share why it's essential for every entrepreneur to understand how to build high-performance teams. Recently, part of the program that we're doing with Thrive, Thrive is a mentorship platform that we put together to help younger entrepreneurs, for those who are not familiar with it. So we listed out 5 Ps that every entrepreneur should be talking about or should be thinking about, should be innovating about. We spoke about products, we spoke about price, we spoke about profit, we spoke about processes, and then we spoke about people, right? And the fact of the matter is that people is essential to every business success. So, before we dive into it, I want to encourage you, if you're watching this, please subscribe to the channel, hit the culture, hit the subscribe button, and share with someone that you know needs to be watching this video right now, any entrepreneur you know. I mean, so Makua, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you
a
for
truly
making our time.
privilege to be here. I'm excited to be here as well.
I can see it on your face. Thank you for being excited about it. I know it took you a lot to be here, and I won't really waste your time at all. Thank you so much for giving us of your best. So, what are some things that should be going in the mind of any entrepreneur right now who is trying to build a team together? Because then again, the market, the environment has become very interesting, and most of our businesses right now in Africa start from one man, or maybe a man and a friend. You know, what should entrepreneurs be thinking about now?
I mean, I'll just start with this. I like the quote of, I heard this, I think, according to Michael Jordan's documentary, and it says is that individuals win games and teams win championships. I just want to really emphasize that teams are necessary for any individual or business to grow. And as an entrepreneur, once you have gotten to that place, I mean, we were there too. Once you have gotten to that place where you know there's a point that the business plateaus without any addition of team members. True. So you need team members to grow the business. So once you want to scale, you need people to scale. True. That's one of the requirements to scale. And for any entrepreneur thinking on this, I think that one of the things I need to really put at the back of your mind is that for me to scale, I need people. And I think that's why we are discussing this video today. We want to know the right kind of people that would really form the foundation or come together and make that team that would deliver that scaling for us. But one of the things that I think that's important that you should think about before you ever start a team is that what is the business about and what's that vision for the business? What's the big vision for that business? What do you see the business doing in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years down the line? And then what's their big vision for the business? Because everybody that comes into that team would be like I call it a shadow replica of yourself. And that vision is important to be able to drive that in every individual.
So you're saying more like, even before we go into trying to form teams, the foundation of a team is the vision of the organization.
Yes.
Like, can you unpack that a bit for us?
So every team, every organization, company, anything that has to do with people need a driving force that would take them, that people need to believe in. And just to take a cue from Elijah's introduction, don't make it so churchy or preachy, but one of the things the Bible also mentions is that a leader too is a dealer in hope. And one of the things vision does for people is that it gives hope to a nation, to a people. For example, see Nigeria, the country we are in today. For us to gather as a people and have hope in the nation, there must be a vision of what the nation can be, and that's what people will now get to believe in that nation for Nigeria. So, as a entrepreneur, whoever you are, the first thing that you need to do is to really sit down and say, what is our big vision? What is my big vision for the team? What's my big vision for this company? Because that's people not necessarily, they work for you, yes, but at the same time is the vision that they will truly serve. True. Not necessarily that individual, but the vision is what they truly serve. Because if they are loyal to the individual, who knows, tomorrow the individual may be gone, but there are people that have businesses that have outlived the person, and those are organizations that have stood on the foundation of vision.
So just like the way, I just spoke about that now, it brought to my mind something I saw, Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Steve Jobs, unfortunately, we lost him. Our generation lost him. He went on. So, but there's something I saw was that the spirit of Apple did not still die. There was something someone said that Apple is actually over 10,000 Steve Jobs.
Yes.
And it goes back to what you were speaking about, that the people become like a shadow of the founder, right?
Yes.
So, but I think, I'm also seeing how Apple was beyond Steve.
Yes.
You know, it was a vision of a people. I mean, I even seen testimonies of people that even didn't like working with Steve Jobs, you know, but they loved what Apple represents.
Yes.
You know, as a matter of fact, they said that, I know that time Apple's logo was a rainbow in an apple.
Yes,
right? So
yes,
some people,
yes.
they say they bleed rainbow.
Wow.
You know, like in terms of, like they knew that this community of people were their tribe.
Yeah.
You understand? They understood the world. And the likes of Johnny Ive, you know, he was actually a successful product designer before he came to Apple. But when he came to Apple, the vision was what actually kept him. He didn't really like Steve Jobs, even when Steve Jobs went and came back, you know. But eventually, they began to see eye to eye because they all loved products the same way, you know. So I mean, that's really, really powerful, you know. But how? I mean, so it begins with a vision.
Yeah.
For every entrepreneur, what that vision is, and that vision has to be bigger than the person that is the visioner.
Yes.
You know, but I think a lot of times in Africa, we build things around individuals in a way that, I understand the founder can't be taken away, right? But we build things around individuals and we must be very careful.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, because there are certain visions that people don't necessarily feel part of. And because they don't feel part of it, they won't necessarily give their very best to that particular vision.
Yeah.
You know, so how should people be able to take this vision and start building teams that become high performing, that will fit that vision?
I think that one of the things that I would say, again, going back to the vision, is that vision, first of all, must be, since we're talking about teams and people, that vision must be must have an impact on people as well. That the vision must be people driven, in the sense that, like, for example, you mentioned Apple, and Apple wanted a situation where everything, first of all, have a situation where everybody used an Apple, and they wanted to make the products easier for the people to use.
True.
And that was also what drove the design of Apple, everything that concerned Apple. And I'm sure in the workshops, in team meetings, that's also what people got to understand from Steve. And that's why Steve was harsh the way he was, or not necessarily harsh, but specific in the way he was, because of the vision.
It was very
demanding from his teammates. So what I would say to that is that, first of all, once that vision is in place, I think that everyone, there are some key things that will now step out of that vision, which are values that you want from people that want to associate with you. Because you that have birthed that vision, there are some certain set of traits that you have observed that has enabled you to carry that vision so far. And those traits, since they are going to be a shadow 1,000 of yourself, you want the same values that you stand with, or you want to see in those people. So you begin to itemize those values. For example, if it's integrity, that because integrity has gotten you so far. If it's honesty you want, you begin to itemize those values that have been able to drive the business so far, and you know that would extensively drive that business further. And then you itemize. That's one of the key things. So it's core values.
But does that mean, does that mean we should hire people who are like us? Or, I mean, because what I'm asking is because I've seen times that I've been reading some books where they say, don't hire yourself.
Yourself, yes.
You're hiring people that can complement you, right? Maybe people that are even smarter than you, people that are better than you. So how do we mix this these two wisdom?
I think that's why is value system rather than value based, rather than personality based.
Okay, I get it.
So if it's value based, is, for example, a hardworking person may not necessarily be an extrovert and an introvert.
That's true.
That's a value. Value is hard work. Discipline can belong to an extrovert, an introvert, or someone that is neat, or someone that is organized in that sense.
True.
But it's the value that we are using to context both of them.
Okay, now, but for example, I mean, I get that. I think some of the things that I think we need to also dive further into is how should we be thinking about hiring team members? Because especially when an entrepreneur is in a stage where he can't necessarily afford to pay what some other brands are paying. You know, what should the entrepreneur be thinking about? What methods do you think the entrepreneur should be thinking about?
For that entrepreneur, I would say that there are different stages of in a business or in the entrepreneurship journey.
Mm-hmm.
One of the stages that I term, which I read in the book, is especially that early stage. It's called wartime season, and in this season you are not necessarily structured. You are looking to make profits and trying to make nothing is balanced yet. You are seeking to make more revenue to try to make sure that everything begins to flow as it should.
It's more like a survival phase.
Yes, survival phase, this wartime phase. So at this point, you cannot necessarily afford the most in terms of in the market. But what I would recommend is that there are people that have these values that you have previously talked about, and then will not necessarily have the full skill set that you may need for that particular role. And those are the people that I think you should look out for, because at the end of the day, those people may not cost as much as those people that have a because we know in the market what is making things expensive or what is costly is skill. So once the skill level is very high, you know that you can't you're paying an arm and a leg for developers these days because of skill.
Because of skills, yeah.
So once you have values in place, and then you can begin to train for skill. So what I would also recommend is that look for people that have like value sets with you, and then begin to bring them on board and begin to bring them to train for skills. And then before you know it, you have a strong base, because at the foundation of every team, trust has to be established. And if there's no trust, then nothing else can be established on that team. And it's even partially shown in that said in this 5 dysfunctional team, the base of it is absence of trust. So you need people that you can trust, and those starts from the values, because even sometimes skillful people, you may not be able to trust really them. Depend on them to do.
True, and I think a large percentage of the people you would need early on in your journey as an entrepreneur, you would actually attract them based on the vision that you're trying to build.
Yes.
Because I found out that usually you will not necessarily find people that are ultra skilled.
Yes.
But you will find people that are at a place where they are looking for a certain level of meaning.
Yes, exactly.
And those people will actually come. I think of them as wartime partners that you made mention of, because the fact of the matter is that these are warriors who they might not even come fully formed.
Yeah.
So you might need to invest in them in trying to see how you can make them better.
Definitely.
However, you also know that they must still hold that love for the vision.
Yes.
That any other person would actually need to have, because it's that love for the vision and that passion for the craft that will push them to actually do better. And your job is mentoring them to become all that they can be, so they can be more relevant to the organization.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So I think that's what's playing my mind.
Yes, you are very correct, because any entrepreneur today because the reason why you started that business, you have something that is in mind that you want to really get across to the public, to the community, whatever service or business it is. So any team member that is joining your organization or any organization of that entrepreneur, that person has to really focus on building his vision in a way that it's easy to find that vision in that person. Another thing that people always miss along the way too is everybody's an individual. That's why the term a person an individual. So it's not, so an individual first of all comes to you before he becomes a team. So that individual has his own vision for life, has his own things that he wants to do in his life. So it's important that as an entrepreneur, as you're hiring people, you help them find, because you are the one that the entrepreneur, and one of the things that an entrepreneur should be able to do is recruit. So as having that skill of recruiting, once you identify someone that means you have seen potential in that person to be able to carry this business or work with you in this business to be able to achieve XYZ goals, Then, if that is the case, then you're supposed to be able to identify that link between your vision and that person's individual vision, or what that person has, so that that person can find himself in the vision. And that's what really makes a cohesive partnership in a team, or someone that will really be committed to that
vision.
Yes.
But then again, something comes to my mind as you were speaking about this. I think also when teams are formed, or in the early days especially, the entrepreneurial skill of being able to sell your vision is very important.
True.
Because, we spoke about it the other time, that what are the skill sets that every entrepreneur must have, besides negotiation, and one of them is selling. Because as an entrepreneur, the responsibility is on you to be able to tell someone that, hey, come and join me to build this. Because I strongly believe that for every assignment that is of God on the earth, even if it's not even of God, for every assignment, there are people who will find fulfillment being in it. So I think the entrepreneur should also focus on, we should be focusing more on finding those people, rather than being frustrated that we can't necessarily hire one. Because at that stage, it's just like trying to move from, let's say you want to go on a trip to Lagos, right? You might not be able to afford a plane. You might not even be able to afford a God is good kind of vehicle, but you might be able to afford a rock and roll. But the point is that you need whatever car is available. The goal at that stage is that it can get you to Lagos. Not necessarily trying to say, oh, it must be this fancy. We must be able to know where we are per time. And see how we can also invest in our people to become the plane that will take you to Lagos. Eventually. So, and I think that's something that every entrepreneur should be talking about and should be looking at, because people actually do things beyond money.
True.
People actually do things beyond money. It's not as though they don't like money, but people do actually do things also beyond money. Nobody wants to stay in an abusive work environment. Nobody wants to work with people that they don't like. Nobody wants to just, so people would love to work in better places, and if it gets to pay better,
great. I mean, they said that these people spend like their lifetime at work. I mean, how long do you spend with your family? And
actually, not even as much as
the majority of your time is spent at work. So people want to actually work in a place that will give them also value. And one of the values of working in that kind of place is community culture. And that thing is all set in the vision that you have initially.
Yeah, I agree, because people spend, at least you spend 8 to 10 hours at work. And I don't think you even spend that same amount with your family.
You sleep.
You sleep. You still sleep maybe for another 6 to 8 hours. So how many hours do you have in the day? So and that gets me thinking, because that means entrepreneurs must make sure that their organizations are places that people would actually feel fulfilled. Or coming to work. So, but what are 5 things, or what are some things that you will think, if they're up to 5, it's fine, but what are some things that you will think are necessary? Because now we just spoke about a team, but a team has now come together, right? And they've said, okay, this is the objective we want to achieve, right? What are the things that you think any entrepreneur should not ignore if they are going to build successful things that achieve objectives?
Number one, I've said already, which I will repeat again, is at the foundation of it is that there must be trust between the founder or the entrepreneur and his teammates.
When you say trust, can you?
So, to develop trust is because you people are strangers when you people meet.
True.
And the relationship is contractual. Basically, I'm supposed to do this and to get this and then to get my pay. But you said something which is, people don't necessarily, yes, pay is a motivating factor, but for someone to give you 100%, pay may get you maybe a good 60, 70, but that full 100, where the person is all in, it takes more than pay. There has to be some level of trust and belief in the organization, and the organization truly, if the founder is there, the founder. there's some level of trust and belief in him that whatever we are building is something that will yield XYZ result that the founder has said. So on the base of all that is trust. And if there's no trust between me and my founder, then there will not be a good way to start the relationship. So I would recommend that the first thing to do is view trust, because we're individuals. Just like there's something that we always say here is that in marketing, when that the consumer is just somebody, you cannot just come and treat the consumer like he's a general person. That the consumer is someone that you have to treat.
The consumer is your wife.
Yes, you have to.
She's not a fool. She's not a moron.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to bring that person as a stranger and begin to understand what the person's vision also is, because one have some feedback, know the person, know the individual, know the team, because we're talking about a young team, and I know these people individually, get to know, have one-on-ones as they achieve their KPIs or whatnot. You are also interacting with them on a personal or other levels that will get them to appreciate the founder, appreciate the business, and then connect even further.
So something that comes to my mind is this: how do you think? I mean, this is very powerful, because obviously you are speaking about the fact that we should go above and beyond just the call of duty of transactions, right? Now, if team has been formed, I mean, people will not necessarily always be lifers, right? They will not necessarily always be people that will always be in an organization. But how should someone go about understanding delegation? How do you think entrepreneurs should be thinking about delegation? We hear it a lot. What do you think this person should be thinking about?
For delegation, especially an early stage business, I think that first of all, you have to. That's why, again, I come back to trusting the people. Because you have, first of all, been doing everything by yourself. So you have a certain kind of way that you do things. I think that it's good to separate having your own way and what is the way. So if your way should be transformed to the way, then it should be communicated. That the way it's done. Especially if your way has brought about results, then that your way should not become the way. But if it's on you're not sure of what to do, then allow people to express themselves to do it. Now, what I generally say, I learned this from PBD, Prophet David, is you have to just micromanage till you trust that individual, to delegate fully to that, delegate responsibilities to that individual.
True. I mean, I think that micromanage till you can trust is very powerful, because it builds upon your first fact, right? I've observed that people tend to frown against micromanagement, but if you are actually trying to build a team and teach people, there's a framework that I came across that I think works very well. It says, I do it, you watch me. You do it, I watch you. Then you do it and I do it together. We do it together and we watch each other, and then eventually you do it and I leave you. Yes. And I think that's the best approach, right? Because someone said something that I mean, I don't know how people can process this, but the person said, you train animals, you teach people. You understand? You train animals, you teach people. And the point the person was trying to make was that it's not just training. You need to let them learn by being active and doing something. So I think we should always be thinking of delegating if we really want to scale, because people must take responsibility. And another thing in the area of delegating that must be understood is the fact that once you delegate, to an extent, you also have given that person a certain level of authority. Because delegation without authority to be able to make certain decisions,
it's not the best.
But a lot of people get scared of delegating. Someone says they get scared of leaving the vine because they feel like, I like what you said about the fact that let them not think this is my way and it must be the only way. Everything should stand on its own merits, so that it's not just an emotional thing.
Yes.
You know, because I like what someone said, that discretion makes room for corruption. You know, discretion makes room for corruption.
Yes.
So also,
I think that's why we develop. This goes into process, anyways, because once you begin to discover ways that bring about some certain results, positive, then you begin to create systems that support that that way, and which is, some people call it standard operating procedures, things that people should do to ensure that they get this result that you have gotten. And I think that is essential too with founders, especially when you have gotten results time and time again with, it has been proven basically. I think it's time that so that there is no room for mistakes at that point, because you have set the standard, people learn from you and then can now innovate on those standards and even do better.
True.
So, but if there are no standards in place, then there is no room to innovate. They can go back to scratch again and start finding what you have already found out. So if some processes have been put in place where these are the ways that we do things, a team member can come in and innovate on it and taking that business to another new level.
True. I mean, it's what you've said is very powerful, because if we don't document the process, some people call it SOPs, some people call it different names. If we don't document the process, so that, because we can't work on that assumption. Someone said that anytime you assume, you make an ass of me and you. You know, so I think it's very important that we also don't assume or hope that people will just understand by assumption. If we really want to build a scalable business, we need to create templates, you know, that people can use. Doesn't necessarily stifle their creativity, but at least it gives them a guideline to be able to use in order to ensure that this result becomes this. I like the quote someone says very much. It says that if your ingredients and your methods look like mine, your cake should look and taste like mine.
Even better.
You know, if not better, right? So I think it's good. It's a good way for organizations to ensure that they replicate success beyond just having to sit down and then hope that the next person that will come and do his own way, and that person will come and do it his own way. And then it's almost like the organization doesn't have a very good vision, or its DNA is very, very weak.
Yeah. So I think I very much agree with you in that sense, because we must always make sure that we have teams that will continue to, like, and that's why also there are teams, and don't be afraid of conflicts in the team, in the sense that if someone is not going through the process that you have outlined, or the things that you have said that is possible to be done, then I think that it's important that you stop it at that time. You call the person, and then don't be afraid of if there is a back and forth or anything, because at the end of the day, it's good that you stop that thing early rather than for it to grow and become something. And because if that is your first few staff that you have hired, then you know that you hire more people. And if things are not curtailed at an early stage, then you know that your business will be filled with misaligned people.
Yeah.
So it's important that anything that you spot on time, you stop it on time, especially if they are not going along the lines that will bring in the results that you think that they should bring in.
But then again, it now moves me to something else. Now that I was talking about the results, you know, and everything, it takes the conversation down to training and development.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people have different perspectives to it. Some people don't want to bother their mind. You know, they're like, see, this guy, if I train him, he will leave. You know, and one of my mentors said, but what if you don't train him and he stays? You know, because it's quite interesting, right? Some people say, after all we have done for this person, he now left us. He just used us to build the CV. Yes, it happens.
Yes.
You know, people will do those kind of things. And but how do you think people should be thinking about training and development of?
I think that training
in terms
and
of systems, processes, or whatever.
I think training and development is a must. Like because at the end of the day, if you want to, like you have said, get to Lagos with you want to get to Lagos from Abuja, and you want to use any kind of vehicle you want to use, be it airplane, God is good or anything on motorcycle.
Yeah.
The one that is available to you, say you got a God is good vehicle and you're using it to go to Lagos. You would want it definitely will take you get to Lagos, but it take you about 12 hours.
True.
Or 13 hours.
True.
So, but what training and development does is that it begins to transform that God is good motors to an aeroplane, an helicopter, or something that will get you to your destination faster. Unless you want to remain getting to your destination in 12 hours, then I suggest that you implement training and development, which will take your getting to your destination.
What if people leave?
In 1 hour.
What if people leave?
Well, so that's why it's an organization. I don't think that you should have, for example, in one team, have only one person. I know that you might have one person, but you're having immediately you have the ability to scale that team again. You begin to put people through the pipeline that will enable you to absorb any kind of shock or anybody. Because at the end of the day, as we have said, as much as we are in a team, people are individuals.
True.
So
Very true.
An individual might make a decision that might not favor the team. And what can you do about that? Really? There are things you can do, but so what if the individual has put his foot down that this is the decision he wants to make? Then I think you have to make plans with the organization. And that's why the vision is very important, because I certainly believe that nothing can take away from the vision. Not one man can kill that vision or that company. So if I was able to get that one man, our division will still grow, and I'll add one or two more people that will even be better than who was even
Yeah,
lost.
I mean, that gives me perspective on some things, because then again, I remember hearing it from a HR, HR leadership professional. He said, basically, no matter what, you have to know that if you don't train or you don't create a learning system within your organization that will cause your people to always be upskilling themselves in their various trades, you end up going obsolete.
True. Because I think that's very key, because the ideas to take that business does not only rely on you, it relies on the team as well.
True.
So you have to continue to innovate on them so that they can innovate on the business. It's very, very important.
I like that statement. You innovate on your people so that they will invest. Because then again, there's something that Richard Branson always says. He says that take care of your customers well, and they will take care of your staff well, your people well, and they will eventually take care of your customers very well.
Yes.
And I've seen that, because many a times, I believe that every young entrepreneur, depends on where you are in your journey, you can take care of your people well. They will know that this is where we are. That's why things are the way they are, right? Because if you can't demand from me what I don't have.
Absolutely.
You can't demand from me what I don't have.
And that's why they have the base again. It goes back to the trust between you and the people that you have on your team. Because at the end of the day, if you are sincere and vulnerable with them, obviously sincere and vulnerable, then they can understand that the CEO, the founder who I'm with, is also human, and then this is where we are at the moment, and they can understand when the organization is going through whatever season it goes through.
True.
But when there is no lack of that trust, then find people that you see people that say or you hear of businesses where there is no trust, and then you see their founders and CEO in another country, and then the founders and the staff are wondering why I've not been paid.
And our father is flying first class.
And our father is flying first class and living the life. So I don't think that's
and I strongly believe that when we are building teams like this, we should ensure that there's something you made mention of, which was the fact that once a team is formed, the wisdom required to take that team to its intended vision does not lie in the head of one man, which is normally the founder, but it lies in the hand of every single person, because your staff or your team have more customer touch points than you do. So they have access to more information, and they can determine a whole lot.
They can.
They can determine a whole lot in terms of whether people consider you serious or not as a brand. There's a way even a person will dress. As a customer of a place, you say, these people. So as a staff, of a place, they'll say, these people.
They're not serious.
They are not serious. But if you just someone who's dressed, you say,
these people will really take their work very seriously.
Will take their work. So I think it's very important that we talk about that, because now how should the entrepreneur be approaching things around incentives and recognitions?
Before you talk about incentive, there is the need to hold them accountable.
Hold who accountable?
The team members accountable. And in order to hold team members accountable, there has to be, first of all, the incentive that you're offering, which is the positive, and that was the positive metric, which is, oh, you did well, and then you get the incentive. But there is also the one of, if you did not do well, what happens when we don't do well?
True.
So are there consequences? Are there sanctions? Are there whatever you want to put in your business that would regulate people? Because at the end of the day, as I said, people are individuals. So some days they will have off days or days that they are not at their best. And at those days, what are the things that you have put in place that will help them to be on autopilot to do the right thing? Because sometimes you have to put human beings or people in a particular container or something that will help them to do better, or a particular environment will help them do better. So when it comes to incentives, I believe that as much as you can as an entrepreneur, you have to make this room available for your people, in the sense that once you have set these goals that they are all to meet individually or collectively, and they have met those goals, it's important that you incentivize those goals, and that will also bring competition amongst your people, and that's good, because at the end of the day, if the goal is a team goal, as they strive towards it, the company is moving towards its own destination. So it's important that there are incentives that incentivize the goal that we want to achieve.
It's more like incentivizing the goal, not just incentives for incentives' sake.
No.
I think that makes sense, right? Another thing that comes to my mind when you spoke about that was the fact that a lot of Nigerian businesses and business owners, I understand from the side of employees too, but I think a lot of Nigerian business owners are not very inclusive, you know. And I like to say that the word company, the word organization doesn't connote one man.
Yes.
It connotes many men, many people, you know. So I think a lot of times we need to go back to that, fundamental of business, knowing that it is all of us that are working together and ensuring that as we put in the work, we all get rewarded according to the level of inputs, you know, that we're involved in. I mean, some organizations do equity, some organizations do bonuses, you know, some organizations give commissions, you know. So I think everybody should do what
your business can allow you to do.
Yes, but whatever it is, ensure that people feel part of
it's very important.
The team, and it goes beyond just incentives. Also goes to recognition, you know, ensuring that there's public recognition, you know, there's public praise. Don't just say everybody is everybody. No, we are still individuals, you know, and we still have to.
Some people, even in your team, they may not even necessarily want incentives like money.
Yes.
They may prefer that you give them recognition. Just that recognition is enough driver for them to go to the next level. Sometimes some of them it might be different things really, but that's why it's important to know your team members, because at the end of the day, they are individuals and not necessarily a one part fits all. Sometimes it might be individualistic as in their nature. That's why as an employer, it's good that you also have interactions with your team members. Not that you say you don't even know, especially if you're a small team, you don't know them at all. That's really, especially
if you're a small team. I agree, because this is the stage where you can know anybody and you can feel their pulse.
Really?
You can converse with them, and then you are now you are really not ready to build anything. I mean, but then again, there are two major things I would like us to talk on today before we go. Right? One of them is right now the talent marketplace has been widened, you know, by global opportunities, right? Remote opportunities. How should entrepreneurs be thinking about these things right now?
I think one of the things that really comes to my mind.
What do you think of remote work also? Apart from that,
yes. Well, my thoughts about remote work is simple. I mean, it has its own advantages to the to the employees and all that. And you also as the employer, in the sense that I don't have to pay for some things like my overheads drops drastically. Yeah. But however, there are things that as lack of a better word, I wish I would use a better word, but I just feel like I should say this too in his own words. It's Bishop Oyedepo. He said there are some things that are taught and there are some things that are caught. So there's, but to speak of it in another way, is that there are some things that we are missing when we have decided to abdicate for only remote work, because there are the things that you can't just necessarily replace, and those are the mentorship from people. And I mean, you can get mentored online, but I mean, mentoring in person.
I want in collaboration,
working together. There's, it's easier for, like, I was listening to someone the other day, a Nigerian, I can't remember the show. He was saying that it's easier for me to just peep into my superior screen and just see that, he did this thing like this. So it's easier for me to say, please jump on this Zoom call, and just, he probably has another thing that he's doing and not necessarily jump on that Zoom call with you. So collaborations are easier, learning from someone is easier, different things that the spirit of someone, in fact, it's easier to pass across because of interaction, culture, very true. Yeah, the culture of the team is easier to fuse around. I mean, there are ways now that people are trying to infuse that culture remotely, but it's proving that it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think someone said something that really got me thinking. He said that we are solving one problem but creating another problem. True. So we need to ask ourselves which one really works for us, instead of us just trying to say it's only one. We've solved this problem, then we create another hope.
Because man was made to interact. Was a social being. You're not meant to be alone. So, and that's what these remote work is, because people spend, as we have said in the beginning, 80% of their time at work. So if they are spending that time at home, at work, you can imagine that they are alone trying to do that work. So many times people are alone. That's why, the rate of, I believe the rate of mental illnesses are increasing. Things are happening because they are interacting with people online. Not necessarily real, it might not be real, it might be different things are coming up now, because people are more alone than used to be before, because people have even married colleagues. Things have happened by virtue of just relating with one another in the office.
Very true. And I think also as an entrepreneur, I mean, that option can be flexible, but and I think there's no one size fits all.
Yes.
But you must know that it's harder to build cohesive teams when all you are doing is remote.
Yes.
I think it's harder. I think most organizations that do it, I think they try to do all those offsites, hybrid kind of approach. I think the hybrid approach might eventually win the order of the day, but it's very important that as an entrepreneur, you don't just jump on the trend.
Yes, very
and
important.
Just say, we are doing remote. It might sound nice.
It sounds cool, but I mean, Elon just took over Twitter and brought everybody back.
Yes, I mean, he brought everybody back to the office, because he knows what it means, right? I mean, someone is here to prove the argument on how you build great companies just by being remote, and I said, well, let's see, we will learn. But for now, let's accept it for what it is. We are still experimenting with it, and nobody should just go full ham and say, I've committed to it. You might, actually, even in our context in Nigeria, you are trying to build remote teams here. Somebody will tell you that the transformer in his area just went off. His battery in his inverter has died. Before you know it, no internet. Before you know everything. But when you are in a controlled workspace, shared resources, shared time, shared spaces, a lot of things get transmitted, amongst each other, and a lot of things get shared. Like there will be lights, there will be water, there will be everything required for that organization, that office to function. So I think every entrepreneur should do what works for them, but should ensure that they investigate, deeper to ensure that this actually works within their context and within their use case. If there are maybe short-term projects, obviously you can do remotely. But if you are building a company, there are certain fundamental rules that need to be trying to build a solid team that will deliver on a vision. You just can't do these things remotely. I think God designed it that way.
Yeah. I mean, even the story that you gave, since you're talking about God and the Tower of Babel, I mean, they were together.
Yes.
They were together.
You have to separate them, if not. So you have to take their remotes. You know, I mean, but I think we've been able to touch on a lot of things today. You know, I wish we could go longer, but I mean, we'll come back again.
Yes, we will.
We'll come back again. It's been and it's been a very, very, very impactful time.
Thank you
with
so
here, sir.
much.
Thank you
for
so much.
having us. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I mean, it's really great because people are valuable, and if there's anything I'll leave our viewers with, is the fact that people are valuable to any organization, anywhere. I mean, to anywhere at all, really. People are valuable. People are the greatest assets that one could ever have.
Yeah.
You know, and also they could also be the greatest liability you have. But notwithstanding, people are very valuable, and the more we value people, the more value we get from people. So it's very important that we dive deeper, you know. And we'll do more episodes on this so that we can dive into some more issues, you know, based on the questions that you might ask in the comment sessions, or some of the disagreements that you might say, no, you didn't attack from this angle. It's fair enough. I mean, we are open to a conversation. Tell us what's on your mind, you know. And obviously, if we see it as true, we'll align. If we don't see it as true, we'll also present our own truths. But I look forward to more episodes like this where we talk about the people problem in an organization and how best to approach it. So if you're not yet following this channel, follow this channel. I'm sure you saw a lot of value in this video. Follow this channel, click the subscribe button, you know, share it with someone that needs to watch it. You know, it promises to always deliver value. You know, to you. Thank you everyone for watching, and do have a wonderful week.
Thank you so much, guys.